Hi, welcome to Writing Habit. Today we're going to walk through some of the basic functionality that Writing Habit offers. If you're interested in diving a little bit deeper in the future, we'll have more videos for you soon. Now I'm going to explain what you're seeing in each of these project rows. First, you have the title, the number of chapters, whether or not it's public or private, but then you have a deadline. A deadline is essentially when you said you want to finish your book by and how many words per day you need to write to get there. Next, we have your daily goal. Have you met it? How far along are you? And then third, we have information about your overall goal for your manuscript. How close are you to finishing the entire thing and being ready to send it to your readers? Next, status. This is where you just say, what stage is it at? Are you revising, writing, just planning it? Whatever you need, you can set it so you can keep track of where you are. And then you can jump into the settings too if you want to directly from this page, or on the left side, you can just click the title to begin writing again or planning. We're going to create a new project. In this case, there's two different projects that you can create. One is a standard project where you'll be writing inside of Writing Habit. A second is a manually tracked project where you're simply going to put your data in periodically for each writing session so that you can show up on Leaderboards and have some data and analytics available to you. So we're going to create a standard project, and in our case, we're going to be pretty straightforward and just name it test. You can also import a manuscript, which you'll learn about in a different video. And this can be done through a docx, HTML, or a Google document. This settings page, though, is where you can set up your daily goals, your total expected word count, your completion target, and also categorize it if you plan to make this project public for others to read. We're just going to name it and get started. When you create a project, you're immediately taken to the planning view. In the planning view, you can either use a template, create a chapter, construct it all on your own. It's really up to you. In our case, we have a handful of different existing templates, but you can also create your own or use those created by the community. We're going to use the hero's journey. Now, if I wanted to expand to learn more about this, I can do that. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm just going to go ahead and apply it. Now we can see that those items have all been added to our manuscript, and each of these chapters has a description of what it should accomplish. Now, if you wanted to add anything else into that manuscript, you certainly could. So I'm going to just right click and add a document. And then I could double click to rename it to chapter 2. So whenever you end a document with a number, you can right click again and add a document, and it will automatically increment or increase to the next number. So this is the primary outline view. You can change it from a vertical view to a horizontal view. You can also decide which of these UI elements for each chapter are displayed. For example, this is the notes section. Then you have plot points and tags. Tags give you the ability to do something like this and add a character, or you can add a POV. There are a number of custom tag types which you can learn more about right here. So there's setting, structural, custom tags, and emotions. And once you've set these, you can use those on all future chapters to quickly add or tag where your characters are showing up, what setting they're in, and other information. Now, for each chapter card, you can also set a status. And lastly, you have actions. So you can insert a document directly after this one. You can edit its settings, mark it as published so that it's publicly accessible if your project is public. And then you also have version history and data recovery just in case you've missed something. Data recovery just allows you for point in time, minute by minute through any given day to recover information. And then lastly, you can copy the HTML or export the Word in HTML or sync it to Google Documents. It's really up to you. Now, this is the primary outline view, but there's a few other ways that you can view your content or your plan if you want to. For example, the grid view will give you an editable table view, much like a spreadsheet in Google Sheets, where you can fill in information that summarizes your project and allows you to quickly analyze it. But you can also adjust what information is shown. For example, I really like the idea of goal, conflict, disaster or resolution, and lastly, the pillar duties. So I'm going to move those to the first 4 columns, and then I'm going to hide all of the other items because I don't want to see them, except for the location. So I want to keep the setting there, and I'm going to hit apply, and you'll see that now I have this view where I can come in and make these changes. in the case of pillar duties, I can click on it and select which parts of the story this is going to drive. Now in our case, you can also click on any of these headings to learn more about what they're supposed to be for. So I'm going to click pillar duties. And here's the explanation. So this can help you quickly get oriented and understand which of these columns are useful for you. But you could also use the column however you want to. It's entirely up to you. On the left-hand side, you'll see that all of your chapters are displayed. And if you click on one of these, you'll go directly into the editing or writing experience. If you click the little gear icon, you'll get the chapter settings information dialog. Now here you can change your title and the document type. The document type is how you would potentially impact how automatic chapter numbering works. That's a separate feature that we'll discuss in the future, but anything besides chapter is not included in automatic numbering. So if you have a prologue or anything else that you don't want to be part of that incrementing number, then you would set it here to front matter, back matter, or other to exclude it. Now you can also see your notes and an author's note. The author's note is specifically to instruct readers, either at the beginning or end of a chapter, about what you want them to do. And this could be invited contributors or public readers, depending upon the settings for your project. So we're going to close this out and talk about our third experience. So the flow view is an automatically generated experience that maps to your manuscript. Now, in my case, it's automatically set to show notes, goal, conflict, and disaster or decision. And you can change those just like the grid view. So if I wanted to show something else, this is where I would come in and make those adjustments, move things around, etc. But this is also intended to be a virtual whiteboard for you. So down here is the sticky note. So I'm going to pick a different color, drag it on the screen, and just say hello. Now for each of these elements, you can Alt and drag to create a new one. You can also Control C and Control V to create a new one. And now I'm just going to chain them together. So this is very common diagram tooling. It lets you work however you want, or brainstorm, or connect things to chapters, just so that you have a workspace to be able to get things done. Now this is the flow view, and if you make section changes, so let me just show you that real quick. I'm going to add a new section, and I'm going to drag and drop to put a few of these documents inside of this section, and I'm just going to call it Act 1 for the sake of discussion. And I'm going to go back to the flow view, and you can see that it added a section. Now it's not quite the right size, so I'm going to resize this section so that it fits my content just a little bit better. So again, this is all about helping you work how you want. If you have feedback for these features or think they should work a little bit differently, let us know. This is also a collaborative experience, so if you wanted to work with someone else, they can jump in and help you. Lastly, we're going to talk about your story. So this page is designed to help you set up the fundamentals of your story so that as you work, you have a foundation to work from. It'll help you be more successful and know where you're going. You don't have to use any of these tools. You can still jump directly into the editor. But the story section is intended to help you think about things like your destination or the end of your story. Much like taking a road trip, it's a little bit difficult if you don't know where you're going. So we encourage you to consider some of these things and keep track of your progress to help you have a holistic understanding of what your story is going to be so that you know what you're doing when you're writing. And this can be as detailed or simple as you want. Within the left-hand side, you can also add setting, world building, story structure, and other specific types of documents that have structure and specific questions. But this is meant for higher level detail that just drives the rest of the story. So in our case, story fundamentals, this is a way of making sure that you don't have a superficial story, that you've thought through what makes your story interesting. And we've also included some premise breakdowns. So what this does is it's given you a handful of stories where we have attempted to come up with our own version of a log line, a plot idea, what the character thinks they want and what they actually need, but also the lie they tell themselves, the realization they have later in the story, and the stakes that are behind everything that's happening. This gives your story momentum, power, a foundation, interest, and a lot more. And so the intention of these tools, once again, is just to help inspire and guide you and help you think about the details that make great stories. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the different types of documents that you can create. We're going to jump back to the outline view, and we're going to right-click on settings, and actually we're going to go with world building. So for world building, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to say I want a world building document. Now in this document, this is the story codex or structured view. You can always do free-form information on the notes section, but the codex is trying to ask questions that will help you think deeply about this particular part of your story. Are there power structures? Are there organizations? And there probably should be if you're talking about a world, for example. The same type of functionality is available under sections like story structure. So there's a theme document and a story structure document. So I'm going to add a theme document. And I can rename it whatever I want to, but I'm just going to leave it untitled for now. And this is where you see, again, structure. So if you want to know what is a central question, why is it useful, click on it. This will give you a little bit of information and an example that will hopefully help you get started. Now, characters are a little bit different. So characters, they get a photo, but they also have that structured data that helps you create a rich character-driven experience because you understand who they are and what they want. Next, we're going to talk about the writing experience. When you're writing, this is your default view. It doesn't have to stay this way. So we're going to start there. First, we're going to talk about configuration. So if you go View, and then go to Editor View, Customization, you can see that all of these things are currently visible. The little blue eye tells you they are visible. You can also swap the left column to be the project outline, if that's how you'd like to work. We're going to leave that off for just a moment so we can talk about the existing widgets before we move forward. So first off, you have the project summary widget, which simply tells you the name of your project, the word count, and who it's by. It just gives you some basic information. It doesn't add a lot of value when you're writing, so you're probably going to turn it off. Next, the notepad. The notepad is just side-by-side notes. So if I expand this, you can see that I have the notepad and my chapter here. And you can change the size of your notepad if you want to fit your needs. Next, we have plot points. These are the key beats of this particular chapter that you want to accomplish. It's essentially a to-do list that helps you keep track of things that you want to make sure are done in this particular chapter. Then tags. We already saw these both in the planning view. They're just shown here for easy access and reference. Now we're going to move to the right-hand side of the page. This is where we have a little bit of motivation, competition, and analytics. Under today, right now we have 0. We haven't said anything. So I'm just going to write a little bit of my story. You can see that now I've been given credit for some typed words and then also words. So typed is our way of keeping track of everything that you've done, the positive. And this is meant to be encouraging. You won't always have this number of words in your document. This is just to say, you did this work. We want to give you credit. And that's what we use for the leaderboard. But your words, this is your net word count, meaning if I delete all of this, you'll see that I now have 2 words instead. So in this case, we see that I've got 2% of my daily goal. We've got a little bit of time, and there's my words per minute. If you expand it, you can see that at this rate, this is what your estimated completion would be for each of these values. And then you'll see an hour-by-hour chart representing what you've done. Now, this bar will climb through 100% and automatically give you stretch goals to encourage you to keep going. The overall section is going to track your totals. That's really all it's about. In this project, how many words have you written? And for your current chapter, how many words are in it? And what was your total words per minute for writing this chapter? Next, we'll talk about the closest competitor widget. In this case, Revo Magi is 6 words ahead of me. So if I write just a little bit more, because if I decide to write a little bit more just because I wanted to pass Revo, I can. And it's a little bit fun to see that there's somebody just ahead. And the intention here is to keep pushing you. So now we've got Esther, who's 1 word ahead. So we can't leave that alone, can we? We've got to pass her as well, even though we might have a typo or 2 along the way. So now we see we're tied with Laura. And again, it's just a little bit of a push to encourage you to go further. And there's Sarah, so we can't let Sarah beat us either, right? So the intention here is that it just gives you a little bit of a nudge, a reason to continue and keep writing more so that your story gets finished. Next, we're going to talk about writing sprints. So when I hit start or join, and just to stop for a moment, you'll see this little green icon here. You'll also see it up here in the header. When we start a sprint, what it's saying is someone has an active group sprint and you can join it. They may be close to done or far ahead of you, but it still gives you a chance to write with others and be part of the community. You can also start your own if you want to. I'm going to leave that for a different time. You can start a sprint with a timer against a monster or with a group, or join a private sprint with a few of your friends. It's entirely up to you. Lastly, word usage is going to be difficult to use on this particular project, so we're going to switch to another one. And I'm going to turn on word usage, and what we'll see is that these are the words that I'm using the most. Most of these I'm not concerned about because they're small, but repetitive words, for example, for, if you're using that particular word in close proximity, this is going to flag it so that you can see if you've used it too close and it's making the story feel a little bit awkward. So here we wrote fear, but it's just twice, so I'm comfortable with that and I'm not concerned. I've already used this tool before to help me find out if I've missed something, but this is a way that you can find these repeated words and avoid having them feel awkward in your story. And in my case, as I look at them, I feel comfortable with what it's doing, so I'm just going to leave it alone. So that's your word usage or word repetition and frequency. Now I'm going to go back to our test project. We talked about this view and configuration, so I'm going to return to that topic. So editor view customization is one way. Another way is focus mode, and you can access it here in the view menu or through the focus button on the far right side. Now when you select this, everything else goes away except for a couple of small things. You have your formatting controls along the top and some view controls, and then also some statistical information that sits down here at the bottom, which you can dismiss if you'd like to keep it even cleaner. You'll also see your progress bar, and this sits in a very minimalistic way at the top of the page, just so you know what your goal was and what you're trying to hit for the day. Next, we're going to talk about that view customization one more time, and in this case, we're going to say, let's say we like plot points. So we're going to drag and drop to shift that over to the other side, and we're going to turn on the project outline. So now the project outline is visible, as is some of the widgets I think are most important, and maybe you don't like this, so you're going to make further adjustments and simply say you don't want overall stats or writing sprints or word usage, so you're going to turn some of this stuff off. Next, we're going to go ahead and show you how the project outline works. So in this case, you can drag and drop sections or individual documents as much as you would like. But if you're looking at a document like a character, this information can also be pulled up side by side if you want to take those notes as you're writing your story. So this is the writing or the editing experience, and you can also go to your stats page to see more detailed information. My stats are a little weak for this particular project because it's brand new, but what you'll see when you get there is your most productive day, both your average and your total, and your most productive time of day. But then you'll also see your today's total, your overall total, your words per day, and your minutes per day. This is just a way of letting you see the data and analytics for your project. Now your settings give you a lot of different options. So one, you'll see all the same stuff that you set up when you first created your project and the ability to add a cover. You'll also see beta reading. So this is designed to let you be able to configure exactly what you want to ask your readers at the end of every chapter. So in this case, we're showing you an example of what that feedback would look like at the end of the chapter based on what you set here on the left-hand side. So if you said, I don't want to ask them about emotions or structural things or settings or point of view, I just want to ask them about characters and these story elements. So now because you made these selections, you'll see these rating controls on the right-hand side, And then if you want to ask specific questions, you can put those questions right here. So you can click on any of these items and edit them, remove them, or add a new one. And those will show up under this section right here. Now, the reason we did this is because it's really easy to get simplistic feedback from readers who don't or aren't familiar with the detail that's valuable for an author. This is a way that you can coach your readers to help them give you better feedback. Next, let's talk about sharing. Your project is private by default, but if you want to make it public in a variety of ways, you can. You can make it so that anyone with a link can read it, or that it's publicly listed. Now, that doesn't mean everything is suddenly accessible. It means that if you publish a chapter, then people who have access will be able to see it. However, if you invite someone as a contributor, this person will have access to all of your content. And you can also indicate whether or not this person should be an editor. If they are an editor, they will be able to create chapters and modify your content. But generally, unless you make people an editor, they can simply leave comments if you enable commenting. So here on the right-hand side, you can see who can read published chapters. So if you'd like it to limit to people who have followed you, you can. Or if you only want people to comment if they are following you, or you don't want them to comment at all, you can change those settings. Lastly, I want to talk about the Epub and formatting options. WritingHabit will automatically format your book as an ebook that you can publish to the Kindle store. It will also give you formatting options. For example, I'm going to use a different project, and I'm going to go into settings and go back to Epub and format. Now here I've set a font that I think fits this book better. And I've said I want a number and a title. So that's why I have the number above with the subtitle below. And this relates to what we talked about before with automatic chapter numbering. The prologue is actually set to be front matter. Now this is just a way of saying don't number it. Then the system knows how to number the rest of the chapters. And because I have a 2.5 chapter, I told it to be optional as well so that it knows to go from 2, skip this one, and then go to 3. And you can make those changes here just from a demonstration purpose to see how this functions and get familiar with it for how your actual outline works. So this is, again, just a preview for you to get a feel for these formatting options. And you can control all of this here on the left-hand side. So if you want drop caps, or if you want a page break on a scene divider, or if you want to change the type of section break or fleuron, whichever way you like to refer to it, you can make these changes and that will show up in your ebook. It will always include both a title page and a table of contents. You can disable the table of contents if you would like to. For free accounts, you do have to have the WritingHabit promo mark at the very last page of your ebook. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and export this Kindle Ready ebook. And this gives you a sense of what it'll look like once it's fully exported. This is very similar to the settings page you just looked at. This is just the final export. So we're going to export that. And now that it's ready, we're going to open that. And right now, we're just going to view this inside of Apple Books. But you can also view this in the Kindle Previewer 3 to make sure that everything is exactly as you would expect. So here's our prologue. It doesn't have that number on top because we said it's not a numbered chapter. So we're going to go to chapter 1. And here's chapter 1. You'll see that we have a little section above before we get to our drop cap where that's defined by us inside of the editor. But now I'm going to go to chapter 2. So here's chapter 2. So again, this took me very little to no effort to get this set up and exported and ready for Kindle and ready for publishing. Now we're going to move on to another part of WritingHabit, which is your preferences. So WritingHabit lets you configure whether or not you're in light mode or dark mode, but it also lets you change the aesthetic. There are some predefined themes that you can quickly rotate between if you'd like, or you can choose custom colors, and custom colors will let you control pretty much everything. So I'm going to go back to a preset theme and default, but this is also where you can set things such as, do you want automatic capitalization? Should the letter I always be capitalized? You can even set up automatic corrections for any character combination that you would like, disable smart quotes, use curly apostrophes, etc. You can also change settings for the editor, typewriter mode, spell check, highlighting, etc. And then you can also do some changes inside of your plan view to show or hide different elements. And these controls are also available in the plan view, so they're not just available here. And then your leaderboards and analytics, which we haven't talked about the leaderboard yet, but if you wanted to just see results around you instead of the top 10, because you're not in the top 10, because somebody might write more than you, then you can make those changes. Or if you want to see people who are using manually tracked projects, you can. That puts you at risk of having those people game the system and be higher than you, but this just gives you an option to determine how you'd like to see it. There's a lot more settings that you can come in here and configure if so desired. Next, we're going to talk about the leaderboard. The leaderboard is just a way for you to compete with other people and have a little bit of fun with your writing. The color code represents how many times you've beat the community goal. For example, the yearly goal is 100,000 words, the monthly goal is 15,000, and the daily goal is 1,000 words. So when you see this color, it means they're still on the 1x. But if you see the red color, you can see that Duco is working on the 5x goal. So working on 5,000 words for the day. And this displays, again, yearly, monthly, or daily information. Next, let's talk a little bit about challenges. Challenges is a way that we want to inspire people to write more. And we hold 3 different types of challenges 3 times a year. So 9 months out of the year, one of these challenges is running. The first is the novel writing challenge. It's a 50K challenge in a single month. And at the end of the month, if you meet certain milestones, you get a raffle entry, and we have small prizes for those who participated. Next, let's talk about the writing streak challenge. This one starts soon, in just a day or two. And this is just how many days in the month you write. It's all about consistency, and this lets people compete where they might not otherwise be able to compete on total word count. Next, I want to talk about our final challenge, which is bingo. Bingo is all about having a little bit of fun and using different parts of Writing Habit. Some of these features you may not use all the time, but during bingo month, you might give them a shot. When you complete a bingo, you get a raffle entry. When you complete a blackout, you also earn an entry. And for the number of bingos or individual challenges here that you are completing, you get credit for those items and progress for the leaderboard. So in this particular case, Ladif has 12 bingos, which means she's completed everything on the board for the current month. And we're at the end of the month right now, so that makes sense because Ladif loves these challenges, which we think is awesome. There's also groups. Groups is a part of the app that allows you to collaborate with other people, but there's also classrooms where you can accept the role of a teacher or an instructor and see the status of students and provide assignments and give them a chance to submit their work so that you can keep track of it and get feedback, etc. We're always looking for ways that we can improve writing habits, so if you have feedback for us, please let us know, but this was an overview of some of the core functionality. There's a lot more that we didn't cover, but we hope you like it, and please reach out to us either via the help section, which is right here, and you can create a new feature request, bug report, or just give us feedback that helps us know how we can improve, or you can talk to us on Discord. Again, thanks for your time, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.